put a spanner in the works when we want to learn from the universe. We make sure that information finds its way to us safely and reliably. Even if it goes all around the world. We search for tasks that challenge us and solutions that change our lives. And our curiosity remains. That is what drives us. For a safe future and a better world.
The MDD, the Medical Device Directive, has been replaced by the MDR, the Medical Device Regulation. What exactly does this mean for you and your company? With the MDR, a new and more stringent system for monitoring market access comes into force. It ensures that medical devices are safe, effective, and can be better traced. Manufacturers therefore need to reassess their medical devices according to the MDR, or have them assessed by a notified body. Only then can they continue to sell them in EU countries. As a notified body, we are happy to carry out the necessary conformity assessment for you and your device in accordance with the MDR. What has changed, and what should be taken into account? The MDR contains some changes. This includes enhanced requirements in respect of safety and effectiveness. Post-market surveillance procedures must be put in place and continuous clinical monitoring established. This means technical documentation must be updated accordingly. However, your medical device needs to qualify as a medical device before you submit the technical documentation. Medical devices that have previously been certified also need to be reclassified. Stricter clinical evidence needs to be provided for Class 3 medical devices and implantable devices. All economic operators must register in the EUDAMED database. Information on certified devices and incidents must also be added later on. To comply with these requirements, you must appoint a qualified person who will ensure that all regulatory requirements are met. The devices must be marked with a unique identification number that can be automatically captured. This enables better traceability and transparency in the market. Important: there is no exemption for medical devices already certified according to the MDD. All devices must be reassessed. Remember that there are transitional periods for authorization in accordance with the MDR. What role does TUV Nord play? As part of audits, our auditors assess whether your documents and processes comply with the new quality management requirements. Our product experts and clinical specialists determine whether your technical documentation meets all of the requirements of the MDR. TUV Nord supports you with your conformity assessment, and as the manufacturer, you will receive all necessary EU certificates upon successful completion.
Good afternoon, everyone. We will be starting our webinar in 5 minutes. Thank you for your patience. Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to the ISO 27001 and ISO 27002 webinar of TUV Singapore. My name is No, and I'll be your host for this webinar. Before we start the webinar, I would like to go through some of the house rules and reminders. Please keep your microphone muted throughout the webinar. If you have any question during the webinar, please put in the chat and we will address it at the end of the webinar. Due to the time constraint, we will only be addressing 2 to 3 questions. Registration link will be shared in the webinar chat. Please provide your name and contact details so that we can send the certificates after the webinar. The slide shares during the webinar will be sent to you at a later time. The webinar is also live streaming in our YouTube webpage, in TUV Not Singapore YouTube webpage. This webinar is also being recorded for future usage of TUV Not Singapore. Before we go to the webinar, we would like to understand more about the audience. So we have come with the poll. So right now, we would like to start the poll. Please participate in the poll so that we would like to know more about you. Yeah. Yes, we can see that the participants are responding to the polls. We thank you, and we'll give about 1 more minute for the poll. After that, we'll close the poll. All right, we have ended the polls, and we are very glad that most of us, here have the knowledge, a little knowledge on ISO 27001 and 27002, which is good. And as well as most of us, if not all of us, are here to acquire the knowledge for 27001. So I hope that this webinar will help you meet your learning objective. So without further ado, let me introduce our speaker of the day, Mr. Ralph Lambert. He's the lead auditor for ISO 27001 and ISO 28001. So Mr. Lambert, I would like to pass the time to you to present these slides. Thank you. Hi, Mr. Lambert. Can you on your video as well as share the slide? Thank you. Mr. Lambert, could you please unmute yourself? Thank you. There we go. Good morning, Mr. Lampert. And good afternoon to everyone in Asia. Yes.
Good afternoon, John. Okay, that's fine. We can start with the presentation, and I think, yeah, a warm welcome from the other side of the continent. So from Europe, I stay in Germany here, and I'm one of the experts of ISO 2701 and all the others in this family. So I will share perhaps my desk, or a moment. So one moment, it's here. So that you can see the presentation. So that we will start with this one. One moment, please. Or is it? So you can see all the presentation.
Yes, we can.
The first page, so about our theme today, we will speak about the 2702 2022-02. So from the 15th of February, ISO.org published this new standard. It is very new, and let me say some at the beginning, a little overview about my person, about the beginnings of my experience with IT security. So from the first time, my first experience are with IT in the end of the 70s. So later on, I found an IT system house, so an IT service development and full service IT provider. Later on in the 2014, I have my own company, was in consultancy, and from year to year, we are growing, make not only consultancy, also an academy and an auditing house for first, second, and third party audits. And in 2019, we are growing a new company, the Veritas Group, and take over all the employees from the other companies, and yeah, have some different companies like consultancy, academy, and auditing together. Good. That's a small overview about my companies here in Germany. We stay in different locations here, like Leipzig, Berlin, and others, also in Europe, in Cyprus, and also in this year in Asia, in Japan. So yeah, we are growing more and more. So from the past, the 27 family, in the past, we have the BS standard. So from the development of these standards, the 7799, perhaps someone of you knows these code of practice. It's a long time ago, so 1995, and the next version will come on 1998, code of practice. And later on, this is in 2007, we will have the 17799, and you see quite the difference between the BS 7799, so it's a national standard all over. And we have then take over from ISO.org the ISO IEC 17799 in 2007. Then it will change to these family, which we know all now, the 27000 family. So the 27000 family, that means that we have a lot of different standards in this family. The last official certification version is the 2702 2013 from October, including the correctives number 1 and 2. This is the standard, which I think you know, perhaps. I know as an auditor, of course, in the third-party audits, we have the basic that the ISO 2701, together with the 2702, is the basic for the certification. But one point is very important. It's only a code of practice for information security controls. So it's a guideline, the 27002. Sorry. Some music in the background. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Can you please share the slide in the full screen mode, presentation mode, so that we can see it bigger? Thank you.
This one, I think I have shared.
In the presentation mode. So
I have shared this in the presentation mode, sorry.
Yes, but can you just click the button on the left-hand side there?
I don't know what you...
Okay, if not, can you please, there should be a button at the bottom.
It's not on the bottom. I have
we can see the slide, but the full screen mode will be better.
I know, and I have done this. Sorry.
Oh, all right. Okay, never mind.
I'm so sorry, but I have shared in the full presentation mode. I have done this.
Oh, you're right. Maybe some technical
I have
glitch.
on my three monitors. I have one with the Zoom and one with the official screened share.
Okay, also auf jeden Fall sieht man alle Slides auf der linken Seite und
ja, ich weiß. Ich habe die Bildschirmpräsentation an. Hier, guck, schau mal hier oben.
Okay. Strange. Egal.
What?
Wir sehen es auf jeden Fall geteilt.
Ja,
aber
das ist blöd.
Ist wurscht. Ist egal.
Gut, aber ich kann es nicht ändern im Moment.
Kein Problem, mach einfach weiter, lass dich nicht stören.
Das ist der Test, den ich so liebe. Hätten wir vorher machen sollen. Good, so nevertheless, I'm so sorry, but you see not the full screen monitor, unfortunately. I don't know why at the moment, but nevertheless, I think we go forward at the moment. So that you have an overview about all the details. So the last official version, I repeat again, is the 2701 from 2013 in October and the 2702 from October 2013. And these are the officials, including the correctives from number 1 and 2, as we will go in certification audit. Now it will be changed in the next time. So we have the code of practice for information security controls in the annex of the 2701. This is at the moment the last official certification version. But now I think you have heard that we will have the new 27002. And I will explain a little bit before of the basics of the 27001 and 002 now, which are official and which we will certificate. If you are a company and will go forward and will decide that you want to have the ISO 27 certification, now you have to fulfill the 2701, including the Annex A, that means the 27002. So now we have a subdivision. That means that we have 14 clauses in the Annex A of the 2701. That means the guideline, so explanation of the 2702. And we have from Annex A5 to Annex A18, 15 clauses on security controls. And these controls are in main security categories, and totally we will have 114 controls in different sections. And these controls you have to fulfill, or if it's not possible for you, so you can describe why not, but you must describe it. That's the point. Also, it is allowed, and if you will read the standard exactly, it is allowed that you will describe also your own controls in additional. That means if you are in a very special branch, you can do it. So from this point, it is important that you know 114 controls in 14 clauses. That is now existing. We have this in measure categories. That means that we have from every control section, we have this in a measure. That means that we have a definition of the specific measure and explanation of how theme which will be achieved, which is the aim of this. So we will have also at next in guidance on implementation. That means that we have more detailed information on how to implement. So on which way you have a lot of explanation sentences for this. And from my point of view, you have a lot of details in it. So read it and think about it, because it's a lot of information inside. And the next one, if it's not enough for you, that you will say, okay, it's not at all, then we have also a point, not always, but often, is further information. So further information means that we have perhaps a little bit more help as the point of legal aspects or other references. So this point is not in every control, but from my point of view, in important controls, you will find it. That's very, very important. So we have 3 steps, like the measure, so the definition of the control, the guidance on implementation, and further information. So these 3 steps. So often you will see 2. That means the control and the implementation way, or the yeah, let me say, more information about, and further informations also will be necessary for you. But one explanation is also very important. The ISO 27002 is not mandatory. So it is only a guideline, and it is not mandatory for companies. And be aware that you cannot be certified as an individual standard. So it's a guideline, as perhaps you know from other standards, like perhaps 14,000 or 20,000, or in the risk management, so the ISO 31001 is only a guideline. It's not a standard for certification. And here we have it, the way which will come for the certification is from the 2701 in the Annex A. And the Annex A in the certification standard, the 2701, describe the guideline for the information security measures. And this is the very important point. So ISO.org has now go the way that at first they changed now the 2702. That is from, I think, from the view from outside, at first a little bit irritated. It is perhaps for a lot of persons not clear. But let me say, the history and all this, the main standard for the 27, you have to understand. The topic here is that ISO.org has a long time to change the contents of the ISO 2702. So for 3-4 years ago, they start with the point of changing the actual version of the 2702. And ISO.org is not, let me say, a party of old guys. It's a working party for a lot of different countries, which are the experts from these countries, and they will go in a working group to change the actual standard on a new base, like on a new technical standard. Like perhaps here we will find in the new standard, like an example, cloud security. Cloud security we don't find in the 2702 now in the actual. So, however, we will see that the technical standard will go further and further, and of course that means ISO.org have to follow. So they has to follow the actual industrial standards. So this was the point that ISO.org are going at first to the 2702 for changing. Now, after they have the 2702 published in February as an official version, they are, since like more than 1 year ago, they are also discussed in a working group, the 2701, because the 2701 is the basic as a certification standard for this family of information security management system. So, however, I think, or I hope that you will understand that we will have the basic for certification is the 2701, that we will have in the basic an Annex A, and this Annex A is correlating with the guideline, so the standard 27002. And in the Annex A of the 2701, the certification standard, we will have only the header and a small explanation, so the control definition. And in the guideline, the 2702, we will have a fully explanation of all these points. So the actual point now is that we will have a new ISO 2702. And the other point is that we will have an, let me say, older version of the certification standard. That means the 2701. So what will come now? At first, I want to explain to you the new version of the 2702. After that, I will show you the next steps for certification. That means, yeah, we have now a new guideline, but what will happen when I will, as a company, want to go the way for certification under the umbrella of the 2701? So what shall I do? And shall I go now to the 2702 version, the new one, or shall I go to the certification standard 2701 and 2702 old version, let me say? I want to show you the way now. What are you doing as an organization at the end of the story here? But now let us start with a new ISO 2702 with a 2022 February version from ISO.org, because this is very new. As I have seen last year, the first draft of this, and after that, the final draft, and I go through the whole way of the new 2702, because I'm also one of the technical guys. What have we done? We have changed the whole 2702. So now, if you will read, and you will see the 2702 new version. And when I say 2702 new version, from my point of view, that means that the version 2022 out of February. So what have we done? We have changed all controls. That is the first topic. That means that the 114 controls, here, it's nice that you know these under the old version, but here, I think, don't forget it. But let's have a look in the new standard, in the 2702. And that means that we will have a very new, and from the technical point, a much more better structure, and not only a structure. So as perhaps you know, a standard will have staying time of perhaps 7 to 8 years before changes will come. So what we have discussed is that we want to have a standard in ISO.org that it will also be on a technical time also in 2026 or 2027. That means that we have to see what will happen in the IT sector, in the information security management sector. So in cloud security, in data protection, and so on and so on. So in cryptography, in all these things, but also in not technical, like compliance. So what will be in the future? And we have looked, perhaps, let me say, in the future. And out of the time of the existing one from 2013, and with the corrective parts of 14 and 15, so number 1 and 2. Also, we go in the past and look in the future and have put in a very, very new structure. So now 93 controls. And what we have done is also that in the appendix of the new version, you will find mapping tables. So that is much more easier for all the experts and for you to have a review from the old to the new one, and also from new to old. So, I said before, no previous controls have been adopted unchanged. That means we have now a new version with 11 complete new controls. One control not exists anymore. So I have put into the control number from the old version, so from the version 2702/2030. So it's Annex A 11.2.5. And we have one control divided up. And this was one of the main topics, 56 controls to 24 controls new reformulated. And remaining controls reformulated. So what we have done also is for each control, a section with implementation guidance and other information is formulated. So that will be also in the same way as you know before. So one point of this is also take over, because also we have guidance for a structure for standards. Like perhaps you know the high-level standard or the HS now, the new name of this at the end of 2021. And this we have here, a little bit under our umbrella in ISO.org. What we have done is also the following controls are very new. So we have put in threat intelligence. And now you will see here after the new numbers. So the new control numbers, you will see here only 5, 6, 7, and 8. And these are the numbers. So threat intelligence, we have new the information security for use of cloud services, as I told before. So cloud services are not in the old version. That means we have take over under technical standards, so cloud services. We have also ICT readiness for business continuity, so 5.30. What we have done also physical security monitoring. So we have put together some controls from the old one and added new points. Configuration management, it's also a new point. Information deletion. It's very, very important, because out of the experience for the technical expert out of the countries, we have also the experience from the auditors, from the certification bodies, and so on and so on. And also from the expert in industry. So data masking, data leaking prevention, monitoring activities, web filtering, and secure coding. These are the controls which are absolutely new, these 11. So, yeah, it is that some of them, what I showed before, are a little bit similar. But what we have done also, I explained before, categorized as together to one control in the new version. This is one also of the important points. And let me say this as an example. And in the new version, the annex point 7.4, we have physical security monitoring. So the description of this is that this control requires you to monitor sensitive areas in order to enable only authorized people to access them. This might include your offices, production facilities, warehouses, and other premises. So 360 look over. And yeah, what I have to do. So now you will see technology. So that means that we put into the, depending on your risk, you might need to implement alarm systems or video monitoring. You might also decide to implement a non-tech solution, like a person observing the area or whatever. It's up to you. We have also these description in other, like industrial standards. Perhaps you know TAPA, so Transported Asset Protection Association, as one also worldwide standard, but it's only an industrial standard, not from ISO-org. But also you will find points into in TAPA, but also in other standards like CTPAT. So that means from Homeland Security, USA, that you will find also some points into. So also we, that means ISO-org, will have a 360 look over about what are in other, perhaps, industrial standards or descriptions from other worldwide organizations. Here also organization and processes that we describe that you should define who is in charge of monitoring of sensitive areas. And of course, and what communication channels to use to report an incident. And the point is also communication channels and how it will work. Also, perhaps in a crisis, it must be function. So you have also to test it. So the other point is people that make employees aware of the risk of unauthorized physical entry into sensitive areas and train them how to use it, the monitoring technology. This is also one of the important points. So that the people know the technology and in which way they have to work with the documentation and Yeah, no documentation is required by ISO 27001. Sorry. But however, you might include physical security monitoring in the following documents. And this we have described in the standard. That means procedures that regulate physical security. What is monitoring and who is in charge of monitoring? And also incident management procedures, how to report and handle a physical security incident. So one of the story out of practice, that means I will come to an audit, and the general manager told me, oh, we are very, very secure. We are near the airport here, ground handler and so on. And we have land side and air side. And around the warehouse, we have been 100% completely monitoring with CCTV. I have checked, and I found that from the 30 cameras CCTV around the warehouse, 3 not function. They are black, and yeah, he told me, okay, we have identified this, and yeah, we have maintenance contract, all is well, and we have reported to the maintenance company and so on and so on, and yeah. But I looked into the contract and said they have a time for repair of 24 hours. But the 3 cameras are black since 3 months. So 3 months black, 3 cameras in an important sensitive area for this company, like a ground handler from land side and air side, not acceptable. So we have non-conformities. Good. That as only an example of this. So now you have seen as an example a point which describe now the control in a new standard. Let's go further. The controls summarized. What we have done is also put together a lot of controls together under one. That means that we have found one umbrella, so like Annex A 5.1. So the policies now are described in the old version in 2 different sectors under the umbrella of Annex A5. So 5.1.1 and 5.1.2. We have put it together to one policies and described a little bit more about, and also responsibilities. Because what we have seen out of the practice is that the policies for information security and who is responsible, so like top management, is not out of the practice of audits and out of the experience of the other nations, are not given 100%, so that we define the policies for information security under a new point together. That means 5.1, and had described it a little more strength. That means what we have done also with the other point, 5.8, information security and project management. This is normally a point in certification audits. Oh, the guys in the companies are very astonished. We have a point Annex A 6.1.5, but a lot of companies don't know. But we have also the point in Annex 14.1.1, and also nobody knows, and also not know that these points take together. We have now also the point, information security and project management. We have put it together under one umbrella at 5.8 and have described a little bit more about project management and information security. That if you are under the umbrella of the ISO 27001, that you have to fulfill in every project information security if you are a certified company. And that if you will start a project and it's equal which project, you have to inform the information security officer or the chief information security officer or whichever. So one part of your information security system of your department, and they will decide if it's interest for us. Yes, we will go forward in your project, or yeah, we are informed, okay, but nevertheless, you have not a point of information security under our umbrella, and you can go forward. The other point is also information security and project management means not only the ISO or CISO, it's only a point of perhaps data protection, because also you in project management you have some points of data protection, and that we will see often in audits by companies worldwide, that they don't understand that in project management they have to follow the rules if they are certified in 27001, that they have to follow the rules also in project management. So the other point is 6.2.1 and 11.2.8 as a new control 8.1, user endpoint devices. And let me say, what you see here under the first three controls, you see at the first one, 5.1, it's not a mixture from the old one. It is control old 5.1 and 1 and 5.1.2. But point 2 and 3, so 5.8 and 8.1, you will see a mixture of controls from the old version. And that is what I explained before. What ISO-org has done is that they looked over the old version of 27002 and think about what we can do better for the future and in which way. And so that companies and people will better understand the way of information security and what ISO-org want, in which way they want to go forward. Also, the point will be 5.9. The new one is inventory of information and other associated assets. That means here we have only the points from the old chapter, the old controls A8, 8.1, and 8.11 and 1.2. And we have put it into the new 5.9. So the same is with 5.10, acceptable use of information and other associated assets. Also in 7.10, storage media. Access control is normally the old A9, and access control as access rights. By authentication information, we have also the same. And you see here in the new 8.24, use of cryptography. We have only the old. We have also the old chapter 10 put into a new by 7.2 also in 11. In 8.32, we have also mixture. And in 8.3.1, also the mixture from the old controls A12 and A40, because these are the main points of IT security, not information security, because it's quite different. IT security is much more deeper, and information security is the whole one, which we talk about. So we have then 8.14, so logs, that it's normally out of the control of the chapter 8.12. We have installation of software on operational systems. And in 8.8, we have the management of technical vulnerabilities. So, and this is a mixture out of A12 and A18 from the old one. And so on and so on. So you see here also, we can go forward and forward and forward. So discuss all these points, but you see what they have done. They have put together a lot of controls, old version, out of the old version, and put it together in a new structure. As the example I explained before. So, and now also we have in the new version some other points out of technical standards we will use also, because normally I think everybody of you use it in, if you are in social networks and so on, like LinkedIn and so on. So attributes. And this is also a new way which ISO go forward. And attributes from 5 categories with values from an associated value range. And these overview of this is like in these categories. So we have typical control types like preventive, detective, and corrective. So these are the differences. We have information security properties like confidential, integrity, and availability. We have cybersecurity concepts. We have operational capabilities like governance, asset management, information protection, human resource security. So the differences. We have security domains. It's also new. Governance and ecosystems, protection, defense, resilience. Yeah, so also ISO.org will go forward with technical standards and will describe also in a very open new way that this new standard will also are actual in 2026 or 2027. So it's not out of time. So each control is assigned at least one value for each attribute. If you look in the new version, so I'm so sorry, but it's not allowed that I will show you the new version because out of copyright and so on. So normally you must buy it in your country or directly from ISO.org in Switzerland, Geneva. But in this context here, you will see after the header of the control, you will have an overview about these attributes. So you will see the 5 sections, and you will see the control title, so the name of the measure, the attribute title, and all these things. So, and now let me say, as I started in this discussion about the importance of implementation. And I hope, or perhaps if you are more familiar with the ISO standard and the ISO standards, like, let me say, ISO 9001, as from my point of view, it's the mother standard. And in every management system standard, we will find the ISO 9001 nearby 40 to 50% inside, also in the ISO 2701, because quality management is one of the important points of every management system. What does it mean? We have since 2013 the high-level standard, and the high-level standard is a standard which everybody knows now from ISO.org, that we will have chapters from in the certification, also for relevant, which are relevant for the certification, in chapter 4 to 10. And the headers, like, let me say, 5.2 in the chapter is policy. So, in 6.2, the targets. And this is in every standard equal, that you will find it in 9001, in 14001, in 2701, that you will have the identical header, like 5.2, 6.2, or 9.3 management review, or 9.2 internal audits, or like 10.1 continuous improvement. And in the past, ISO.org has looked over, because every standard has also a time for look over internal by ISO.org for reviewing. And the mother standard, the ISO 9001, are a discussion internally, and they found not a lot of changes or important changes to review the ISO 9001 out of 2015 in a new version. That means that it will give not a review of the ISO 9001 and not a new version. Normally, the versions of the standards will reviewed, and a new version will come after 7 to 8 years. The mother standard of the quality management, so the ISO 9001 certification standard, out of 2015, so we will add 6 to 7 years, so we are 2022, 7 years, I think so. And ISO.org last year decided that they will give out not a new version of the ISO 9001. So that means, at a conclusion, the 2701 will have also not so many changes in the new version which will come this year. That means that we will have, at first, in the new version of the ISO 2701 certification standard, only a big change that will be the Annex A because of the new guideline 2702 out of February 2022, and perhaps some little changes in the 2701. And these changes are now under discussion. Now we will have also a draft from the new one. It's published for internal. And then I think so in 5 to 6 months, we will have the final draft of the new 2701. And perhaps, if we will have luck, I think so in November, we will have the new version of the 2701. And let me say, what will happen then? So out of this, and please let me say, these are based on experience from past updates, also from other standards. So ISO org entry into force, the ISO 2701, I think approximately in October, November, December this year. And then also the International Accreditation Foundation, so the IAF, as responsible for the certification bodies, will decide, okay, perfect, ISO org, we have a new version of the 2701, but what we need also is a transition period, as perhaps you know from other standards. And normally it is 1 year, so 12 months. And so if you want to go with your company for the new standard, I think that end of 2023, you must to go under the new 27001 together with the new 27002. But it is not forbidden that you will look into the 2702, the new one now, and will be, I think, yeah, it is very important, and that you are in a good way to read the new one and implement. And this is also not forbidden. You can implement controls out of the new 2702 because of later on, you also must do it. Because here on the timetable, you will see that the new version of the ISO 2701 will be in, I think, end of 2023 will come. And then you have to do it, of course. So that's a way in which you can go forward. The other point is, if you want to go now this year for certification audit, so that your company has to decide, okay, I want to need, or we want to need the ISO 2701. So we want to have an information security management system. Okay, what can we do? The point is, go to your certification body, to TÜV North Singapore, and ask them, and they will ask, and they will answer you, okay, it's not a problem. We will go forward with the 2701. The actual version and the actual official version is out of 2013 with the corrective from 2014 and 15. So corrective 1 and 2. And these are the official certification standards in this year and also in the next year. So these are the important points. From my point of view, it is important to say, please have a look to the new 2702, look into, and perhaps also go deeper into the 2702. Look over every control. If you have questions or discuss it internally, if you will find a solution. If not, perhaps ask a consultancy or ask your certification body. It's also a point. So TÜV North Singapore has experts all over. And I think now, if you want to go in this year under certification for 2701, nothing changed. But it's important, please look into the 2702, read it, and of course, implement some of these points, because latest in 2024, you must do it. Also, what I want to show you is an overview about not only the 2702 that you see here. We have the disk, so the draft international standard, the final draft, and the international standard. And yeah, here the 2702, it was not January, it's February. So here at the end. And now we are discussing, and you see here the ISO 2701. We have seen the 2709, 017, and 011, but the version 011 is also since 2019 in revision. So it's a long time, from my point of view, too long. We have the phase 2 with other standards like the 2708 and 27010. But very important for us in Europe, I think in Asia also, is the 27019. So this is the additional guidance for the sector energy. One of my important standards, because I'm also not only an auditor in 2701, also in 27019. So here in Germany, we say Kritis or crisis, so the critical infrastructure. And I'm also an auditor from our government. So for the whole critical infrastructure, and also for our council here, like the BSI, the Bundesamt für Sicherheit in der Informationstechnik, so a special, let me say, institution of security information, so for technical information security from the government. In phase 3, we have the ISO 2703 and 2704, but this will come later on in revision. So here you will have a whole overview about all the other standards of the ISO 27 family. So these are the main topic points. And here, I think I was a little bit quick. I think so. But I hope you have enough questions and have understand the way of the new 2702. And let me say, also that we have a new guideline, but we have not a certification standard, a new one. That's important to understand. It's only a guideline, and you can look into. And please be aware of this. Yes, you can look into, and also, from my point of view, please look not into, please take over and be aware of the future. It will come. So from my point of view, thank you very much for your time here. And perhaps I think, Snow, we can go over to perhaps questions. And I don't know if I have of all your questions an answer. So I don't know, but let us try to find solutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rao, for the presentation. Yes, we already have a few questions. So right now I have two questions. Let me share my screen so that we all can see.
Perfect. Take over, please. It's okay?
This is the two that we have for now. Yes.
Yeah.
First question is, why is ISO 27002 important in the implementation of ISO 27001 ISMS? What will be enrolled?
Okay. So I have explained it a little bit before, but let me try to say it much more, perhaps easier, if I can do this. So the structure of the ISO 27001 is that we will have, it is a certification standard at first. The other point is that we will have here in the ISO 27001 as a certification standard, the main topic that this is not the only point to fulfill under these certification standard. That means we have here a description from chapter 4 to chapter 10, which every organization has to fulfill if they want to be certified. That's the first point. The second point is that in addition, we have here in the standard an Annex A, and the Annex A is very, very important because in chapter 6.1.3 C is the way which will describe that the Annex A is important to fulfill, and why. It will come out of the risk management, and that you have to fulfill the Annex A. And the Annex A is in the 2701. And if you look into the 2701, you will see the Annex A is in a very short version. That means that you have not a long description about what does it mean and how and what can our organization can do. So how we have to implement this. And the reason of this is that ISO.org has done a guideline of this. So often you will find also in other standards guidelines. And the normal one is that ISO.org has prepared the ISO 2702 as a guideline for explanation to fulfill the Annex A of the certification standard of 27001. So is it more clearer, or I hope it is a little bit clearer.
I hope it is. So we can move on to the next question. If you
Okay,
have a
thank
follow-up
you.
question, please put in the chat and we'll also answer it. The next question is that how will ISO 27002 help the organization in data protection implementation?
Yeah. Okay. So I think that I understand the question so that how will the new ISO 27001 will help the organization in data protection implementation? I think so. That this is the exactly question. So when it is so, then yeah, it's a combination, and now we will have it. We will have the ISO 27002, the new one, and also we will have the 27701. So please be aware of both of them because of, and this is, yeah, a little bit, yeah, not dangerous, but for better understanding. ISO.org has taken out the new ISO 27701, and the new 27701 is for a management system data protection. And this is also a certification standard, yes, indeed. And this is not a guideline, this is a certification standard for data protection. So, and in combination, so that, let me say, an organization want to fulfill information security management and data protection together, then please look into the ISO 27001, in the new 27002, and please be aware the ISO 27201. If you have some more questions, please come again later to Snow, and we will check and can help you, of course. So I think the TÜV North Singapore has the experts and can help you. So it is not a way. We will find out a way in which we can help you. Please be aware of this. Think about, because we want to help you. We can help you, of course. And we are, so TÜV North Singapore, the experts of certification. And from my point of view, I can help you also to implement this. And I explained before, we are also a consultancy organization, of course, but we are also third-party auditors for TÜV North. But please be aware, because of the point of neutral, we can do consultancy, but from my point of view, I cannot then come to you as a certification auditor. But what we can do is preparation, of course.
All right, Ralph, I think we have time for another question, probably the last question of the day. It just came in, right? So the question is here. Can the organization use another framework or standards to meet the Annex A requirement? And is 27002 being used as a criteria to measure the 27001 Annex A compliance?
Ah, this is a question from an expert. Perfect. Yeah, that's great. I love some difficult questions because yeah, it is difficult to answer, of course. Yeah, and I don't know from which guy this question will come, but it is not so easy to answer about, because I can say yes and no, and this is quite difficult. The organization can use another framework because of look into the ISO 27002 in the existing one, and it is not forbidden. It is not forbidden. So if you will look in the standard, in the guidelines, it is allowed. Yes, you can, and this is what I explained before also. You can define your own controls, of course. But please be aware, if you want to have a certification under the umbrella of the 2701, you have to fulfill the 2702. And in additional, you can go forward with your own controls which you have created. That is possible, of course. But it is for certification bodies that the criteria to use the 2701, this is okay, this is the certification standard, together with the Annex A inside the 2701, but it is not forbidden for the organization to fulfill the 2702, the guideline, because the 2702 described the Annex A of the certification standard, so the 001, much more deeper. But what you can do as a customer is you can create and define your own controls, but please be aware, in additional, not alone. If you have questions or more questions to this point, please come to us so that we can discuss it and explain it face to face.
Okay, probably one more question since we have a bit of time, Ralph. We have one more question.
Yeah.
And this will be the last, yeah. So the crowd is interested on the topic. This is good, okay. So the last question, let me just pull it up quickly so that everybody can see.
Yeah.
Question number 4. So yeah, about new control threat intelligence 5.7. Yeah. Could you please give the sample of implementation of this control?
Okay, but about new control threat intelligence. Okay, could you please give a sample of implementation of this control? I think I have described it or not. I have described the way in which, as an example, I put into here a 7.5 you think about. Okay. Yeah, I have explained 7.4. Right. You are right. But if I will explain 7.5, let me show 7.5. 7.5 is not one of the new one. I think so. Certain changes of the new control. 5.7. Yeah, right. That will take a little bit longer about all the points. You have seen in the example, which I explained before, that I have given one example that is 7.4, physical security monitoring. And out of the standard, you have then to describe this, and 7. Let me look into the standard. Yeah, 5.7. Sorry, I'm the wrong one. 5.7. One moment. So, threat intelligence. Yeah. Could you please give a sample of implementation? Right. What we have, let me say at the beginning, which we will start with 5.7. 5.7 is, as a control type, we have preventive, we have detective, and corrective. So all the 3 points we have as a control type. We have information security properties. We have all 3 types, means CIA, so confidentiality, integrity, and availability. We have in the cybersecurity concepts, we have identify, detect, and response. We have operational capabilities, And here we have threat and vulnerability management. And in security domains, we will have defense and resilience at the points in the new version. Yeah, this is directly under the header I explained before. And the control is defined as information relating to information security threats should be collected and analyzed to produce threat intelligence. So what does it mean? The purpose of this is to provide awareness of the organization's threats environment so that the appropriate mitigation actions can be taken. And out of the guidance, as example, we have defined that information about existing or emerging threats is collected and analyzed in order to facilitate informed actions to prevent the threats from causing harm to the organization or reduce the impact of such threats. And threat intelligence can be divided into 3 layers, which should all be considered. That means strategic threat intelligence, so exchange of high-level information about the changing threat landscapes. Let me say types of attackers or types of attacks. Tactical threat intelligence. We will have information, or we want to have information about attacker methodologies, tools, and technologies involved. Operational threat intelligence. So details about specific attacks, including technical indicators. Threat intelligence should be relevant, so related to the protection of the organization. Insightful, so providing the organization with an accurate and detailed understanding of the threat landscape. And so on and so on. It's one then more page. So totally 1.5.
All right, thank you, Rob. And thank you everyone for your question as well as for your participation. So we have come to the end of the webinar. And if you have not provided your contact details, please do so in the link given in the chat so that we can send you certificate of participation. All right, so once again, I would like to thank everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Greetings to Asia.
Thank you very much.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Ralph. Thank you so much
We
for
make
joining.
sure that our energy is safe, also in the future.
You take care of healthy food for millions of people.
You ensure that we're safe on the road.
You are always there ahead of us and know exactly what works and what doesn't.
You know no boundaries and tread new paths.
For more than 140 years, we've been taking responsibility for today and tomorrow, every day around the world. How do we do that? We see to millions of warm living rooms and well-lit streets, so that you can be sure your home will remain a comfortable place. We secure the energy supplies of the future. Mankind needs more and more energy, but not at all costs. We want green energy to be an alternative for all. But also in the future, we will need safe conventional forms of energy, with greater efficiency and less emissions. The world is becoming increasingly complex. By means of ongoing education and training, we help others to face new challenges. We want people to be at the heart of everything. That is why we care about safe food and make sure that there is a good feeling around the dining table. Our life is already exciting enough. When it comes to what we eat, we should be able to have confidence in the origin and quality of our food, so that it is not only mass but class that counts. We continuously carry out tests for healthy nutrition free from harmful substances. We have good relations with guardian angels. To ensure that mobility will remain safe, we look closely at all vehicles, whether car, truck, ship or train. With an objective outside viewpoint, we take responsibility for technology, the environment, and especially for humans. Our whole life is mobile, and that is a good thing, as long as it's safe. And environmentally friendly. We want to know how mobility will work in the future and how new ideas will become suitable for everyday use. We love to set things in motion so that both goods and people arrive at their destination safely. And we search for solutions for the metropolises of the future to improve the infrastructure and reduce environmental impact. We are a midwife for the really big ideas. We are aware of the pitfalls and know what secrets are hidden deep inside the earth. Our specialists look far beyond the surface. This allows companies to operate successfully and sustainably. We are where you need us. Everywhere, both on and under the earth. We give a jump start to people to reach for the stars, so that technology doesn't put a spanner in the works when we want to learn from the universe. We make sure that information finds its way to us safely and reliably. Even if it goes all around the world. We search for tasks that challenge us and solutions that change our lives. And our curiosity remains. That is what drives us for a safe future and a better world.